Oh, we got a free ticket. Nice.
Mr. Mayor, it's 5:30 p.m. and the live stream has commenced. You may begin your meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, council, staff. I see that we do have quorum, so I call this public meeting under the Planning Act in session for Wednesday, April the 15th at 5:30 p.m. At this time, I would like to ask Deputy Mayor Eckert to please read the land recognition statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. I now turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we proceed to the adoption of the agenda, I have some opening remarks. Public meeting under the Planning Act of April 15th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. This public meeting under the Planning Act is being held in a hybrid format, allowing for both in-person attendance and remote participation where requested. It is important to note that no decisions have been made in advance of this meeting, and none will be made this evening. For the purpose of this meeting is to provide information and receive input from council and the public. The Planning Department will present the details regarding the subject application, and following the presentation, members of the public, if any, will have the opportunity to provide verbal submissions. If you wish to provide additional comments to the Planning Department for review prior to the preparation of the bylaw or would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the planner responsible for the application in writing as soon as possible. And Mr. Mayor, that brings us to the approval of the agenda, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Brink that the agenda for the April 15th, 2026 public meeting under the Planning Act, special meeting of Committee of the Whole, be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Any questions on the agenda? Not seeing any, I'll ask the question. All those in favor? And I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the disclosure of pecuniary interests.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a pecuniary interest to declare? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that brings us to item 6, and I will now read the introductory remarks into the record. Town of Pelham application for zoning bylaw amendment, being an amendment to prohibit any future residential development on Part 2 as part of an agricultural purposes only APO zoning at 920 Kilman Road, file number AM02-2026. The Planning Act requires under Section 34 that council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect to the proposed amendment. This public meeting has been called to satisfy this requirement. Notice of this meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all persons who are listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 120 meters of the subject property on March 25th, 2026. The notice provided information on the property and the proposed amendment. In addition to providing information, we will also receive any comments that any member of the public may wish to offer. And if you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the planner responsible for the application in writing as soon as possible. Contact information is available on the town's website and will follow the last slide of staff's presentation shortly. Appeal rights for the proposed amendment may be limited under the Planning Act. If a person or entity would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Town of Pelham to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but they do not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Pelham before the bylaw is passed, they are not entitled to appeal the decision. In closing, we emphasize that at this stage, no decisions have been made regarding the proposed amendment, and therefore, any comments received will be considered by the town. To Mr. Mayor. We do have Andrew Edwards with us this afternoon to present the file.
Excellent. Mr. Edwards, you have the floor, and thank you for joining us this evening. And don't forget your microphone.
Good evening, members of council and members of the public. Tonight's public meeting is for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment application at 920 Kilman Road. Sorry about that. For context, the property is on the south side of Kilman Road, north of Metler Road, as shown here on the slide. The property currently contains an existing dwelling on private services, a detached garage, and a pole barn historically used for agricultural purposes. The property is currently used for cash crop farming. Surrounding land uses are primarily rural residential and agricultural uses, including an existing poultry operation on the lands to the southwest owned by the applicant. The applicants own approximately 80 hectares of farmland across the municipality, including an additional dwelling at the farm property at 920 Metler, directly south of 920 Kilman. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone a portion of the property to prohibit any future residential development. This is required as a condition of a recent consent approval and is known as an agricultural purposes only, or APO, rezoning. As mentioned, the property was recently subject to a surplus farm dwelling consent. In 2010, the owners acquired 920 Kilman to expand their operation, and as a result of the acquisition, the dwelling at 920 Kilman became surplus to the farming operation. The owners made application to the Committee of Adjustment in November of 2025 for a surplus farm dwelling severance that was granted provisional consent. The application created a new 1 hectare lot, Part 1, which is this portion here, with the existing home and those accessory structures I mentioned. The remaining land, Part 2, which is highlighted in that red, is proposed to stay in agricultural use. As part of the approval, a condition was included requiring Part 2 to be rezoned to an APO zone to prevent any future residential development on the lands, which is the application that's before us tonight. At the provincial level, the land is identified as a specialty crop area within a prime agricultural area per the provincial planning statement. Further, it is within the Greenbelt Plan's protected countryside designation. The overarching provincial policies of these documents are intended to protect farmland for long-term agricultural use. Provincial policy allows for the creation of 1 new residential lot when it's surplus to a farming operation, such as this case. The goal is to keep agricultural lands available for long-term agricultural use and direct new residential development to settlement areas. This is why the rezoning condition was included as part of the provisional consent approval, to ensure the remaining land remains agricultural. Moving on, the Niagara official plan also designates the property as prime agricultural lands, specifically a specialty crop area. The Niagara official plan policies build on the provincial direction. So similarly, a surplus farm consent is permitted if the home is surplus to the farm operation and is supported through a planning justification report. Overall, the focus of the NOP is still on protecting farmland for long-term agricultural use. The town's current official plan designates the subject lands as specialty agricultural and within the Greenbelt Natural Heritage System. The main use in this designation is agricultural. Town consent policies in specialty ag areas generally do not permit lot creation except in specific cases like a surplus farm dwelling. In these cases, the remaining farmland must be rezoned to prohibit future residential uses, and that is what this application is doing for Part 2. As you're aware, Council adopted a new official plan in May 2025, but it's still awaiting final approval from the province, so the 2014 plan is still in effect. The new plan has similar designations and policies for this property. It also allows surplus farm dwelling severances so long as the remaining lands are rezoned to prevent future residential development, which is the same direction as the existing official plan. In terms of zoning, the property is currently zoned specialty agricultural with a portion of the Greenbelt Natural Heritage overlay on a portion of the lands. As mentioned, the applicant is proposing to rezone just Part 2 to a site-specific zone to function as an agricultural purposes only zone, meaning no future residential uses would be permitted on that land. No other zoning relief is required for the remnant parcel. A few comments were received from agencies and town departments. Public Works had no additional comments. The Niagara region had no objections to the proposal and confirmed that one of their septic conditions had been addressed, and no comments were received from members of the public. The applicant submitted a severance sketch as well as a planning justification report as part of the application for consent. And just a note that all materials are available on the town's website at the link shown on the slide here. So to conclude, in accordance with town official plan policy and the delegation of powers and duties bylaw, the Director of Community Planning and Development has delegated authority to approve minor zoning bylaw amendments such as an APO request. So there will be no decision from council. The next steps following this public meeting is for staff to prepare the bylaw to be approved by the director. If anyone has questions after tonight or would like to receive a notice of the decision, please feel free to contact me by phone or email at the information on the slide here. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. One question, probably for the planning. And we've had lots of, we've done these APOs before within the town. And so my question is on the lot that is now severed, is that now if the owner wanted to put an ADU on that, that'll be just the same as any other dwelling in the rural part of the town, or is that not?
So through the mayor, on the retained piece, which currently contains a single detached dwelling, they would still be able to construct an ADU provided it complied with the standard regulations
Yeah,
of the
it's
bylaw.
just the big part that was severed from, that is now strictly agricultural going forward, and excellent. Got it.
That's correct,
Thank you. Any member of council, any questions, comments on this application?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I do believe we are joined by the applicant. If the applicant has any comments, you're welcome to make those to council's attention. If
We'd rather not, but as part of the severance approval.
Okay.
So you're good with that then, Mrs. Vanderzijn? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do not have any public here, and we have had no one register, so Mr. Mayor, you can move into committee input.
Okay, excellent. Now I'll turn to council. Any questions or comments? Council Nesnick.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, just some questions for Andrew or the planning department. So in maybe layman's terms, I think this is my first OPA or whatever you've called it, APO?
APO.
APO that I've attended, that I believe. So, just to get a picture, so this was one large piece of property, and then it said something about consolidated with another farm. So is the part two being consolidated with another farm somewhere?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the consolidation that is happening is that the applicant owns additional farmland. So when they purchased this parcel, this larger 920 Kilman, it's the dwelling became surplus to their operation. So that's what's triggering the surplus farm dwelling severance.
So the part one was surplus because it's the home and it's not needed.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so now they can do whatever they want with part one because it's a severed piece of property rather, and it's not part of the entire farm. Is that what the purpose, I guess, for them was?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct, yes.
Okay, all right. But then, so down the road, if part two, they want to build a home or sell it and build a home, that will not be permitted?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. So the zoning would prohibit any residential development of that site. It would just be for agricultural purposes only, for part two.
And so again, through you, Mr. Mayor, being my first one here, is that a common practice that properties now are not allowed to build a home if that's going to become their farm? If folks sell that and it becomes their farm and they need a home to live in, they can't build a home there?
Yeah, happens all the time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it's a common practice for the prime agricultural lands. It's required through provincial policy.
And that's so it maintains the agricultural property, so we're not expanding into agricultural lands.
Correct. So it would restrict lot creation for the purpose of lot creation. It would
Okay.
only happen in circumstances like where a dwelling is surplus
Oh,
farmers' needs.
that's reassuring. Very nice. Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Thank you, Council Nesnick. Any other questions? Oh, yeah, I don't see Kevin.
Oh, he's here.
Sorry, he did have to leave. He was having some technical difficulties.
Oh,
but
okay. Oh,
He did pass along. There was no comments.
okay. So not, Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Just one quick question, I think, to the applicant. There you are. So you've made this application?
Yes.
So,
Well, we did
If you wouldn't mind just coming to the podium to make your comments, if you could turn on the microphone so that it's captured by the video, that would be appreciated.
Oh, it should see your name, right? Oh, okay.
there you go.
Okay. Yes, we made the application for the severance of the 1 hectare property to separate the house, so our son wants to buy the house, but not the
whole property.
agricultural property. He's not a farmer. So unfortunately, I mean, we don't want to go this route, but it was one of the conditions of the severance.
Okay. So if that's what happens, you're not, it's not catching you by surprise.
No, we've known basically from the beginning that if we were to sever that property, that's probably the way it's going to end up.
Okay, thanks.
And it didn't appear there was an option if we wanted to sever the house.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the presentation of resolutions, and I have a motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrand that committee receive report 2026-0083, information report application for zoning bylaw amendment 920 Kilman Road as it pertains to file AM02 2026, and that committee direct planning staff to prepare the bylaw for the Director of Community Planning and Development approval. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. One last time, any further questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we have not had any presentation from the applicant or public, so that brings us right to adjournment. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Nisnik that the special committee of the whole public meeting under the Planning Act be adjourned. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. This meeting is adjourned. Just like that, Deb.
Easy peasy.